Today in Mahan series we will speak about A. Subbarao Pai, who established Canara Permanent Hindu Fund, which later became Canara Bank. In this series we speak about the formative years of great people, what contributed to their childhood experience, what contributed to their teenage, what is in their student age, and their initial professional career, which created the great persons that they are. A. Subbarao Pai was a famous lawyer, and like him, the other great banker of the South Canara, Dr. T.M.A. Pai, who later established Canara Industrial and Banking Syndicate, which later became Syndicate Bank, was a famous doctor. I will speak about him in the next episode. A. Subbarao Pai in childhood was known as Subbaraya Pai. Pais in southern Kannada are God Saraswat Brahmins, and Pai in that particular community is a derivative of the word Appa, which is father. Subbarao was born to Upendra Pai, who was a practicing lawyer and later became a second Munsif. His first prefix, which is A, represents Amembal, which is a village about 5 miles away from Mulki. Mulki was a small town, there was very little, and there were no schools. There was one community school known as Aigala Sala, in which every gentry in the city used to send their children, and all kind of philosophy, religion, English, Kannada, everything was taught by one teacher. So very crowded and uneventful childhood. His mother was very sick, so he had a wet nurse called Bayamma, and Bayamma later on became away from the family. So his elder brother, whose name was Venkatraman Pai, his wife Rukmini Amma was the foster mother for Subbarao. Subbarao was more mischievous, so his entire family stayed in Mulki up to the age that he was 12. And he was born, as I told, in the year 1852, that is just 4 years before India's first struggle for independence in the form of Sepoy Mutiny. After that, we saw a lot of reforms in the English governance of India. A lot of revolutionary Indians coming and changing the discourse in India about what is Indianness, what is Indian philosophy, what is native wisdom, and so on and so forth. And these people, names I can tell, Vivekananda was there during that period, Badruddin Taibji was there, Firoz Shah Mehta was there, Bal Gangadhar Tilak was there. So in 1864, when he was 12, his father shifted to Mangalore because the education facility in Mulki was very limited. At the age of around 14, that is 1866, suddenly he showed very great promise. And at the age of 18, he passed his FA and provincial examination with top marks. And because he showed such good promise, his father decided to send him to Madras, because those days South Kannada was having its capital in Madras. It was part of Madras province, and North Kannada was part of Bombay province. His father used to send money, monthly allowance, to his principal. But he again signed in his studies. He stood first class first in BA, which he passed at the age of 20 in the year 1873, and immediately got admitted into LLB, which that time called BL. His brother, who by that time became a judicial officer or a munsif, introduced him to a mentor who was a High Court judge, and his name was Holloway. And Holloway mentored him through the legal practice and given him all the best practices of literature, law, etc. Again he stood first class first. In the year 1875, at the age of 22, He stood first class first and came back and set up a practice in Mangalore as a lawyer. Those days, there were 3 courts in Mangalore. Mangalore was a medium-sized city, and being the capital of South Kannada, there were just about 25 lawyers. But there were very few regular law degree holders amongst the lawyers who were called vakils. So he had a roaring practice because his wisdom, his ability to combine law and literature and to get into the arguments in a very objective and a legal manner, own appreciation of a lot of British judges who were ICS officers who were coming as judges to district courts. He also developed a philanthropic sense, a sense of helping, showing gratefulness to people who helped him during his childhood when he was growing in Madras, and he never hesitated from doing the hard work that is necessary. In fact, there is a recorded statement that he had a very good sense of humor. Apparently, an English judge once told him that, Mr. Rao, you will have to give your argument in 5 minutes. So he told, sir, I have charged 1,000 rupees to my client, so I must speak at least 1,000 words. Please allow me that. By the age of 35, which is 1887, his average income was 1,500 to 2,000 rupees a month, which is very, very high, because that time a big high school headmaster used to get 30 rupees salary per month. And there used to be principals or district magistrates who used to get 200 or 250 rupees salary. So when he became very, very reputed as a lawyer in Mangalore, people advised him to go to Madras and set up a practice there in the High Court. He went there for 2 years. After 10 years of practicing in Mangalore, he went there for 2 years, but his calling was for social service in his own area. So he came back, collected money, recruited few of the other similar-minded philanthropic lawyers, businessmen, kings, jamindars, and started what is called Kannada Boys High School. This was when he was 39, in the year 1891. 3 years later, he established Kannada Girls High School. And 1 year before that, he established what is called Kannada Hostel, because children used to come from rural areas to study in Mangalore and they didn't have a place to stay. He also established something which was unthought of in the style of British clubs. He established Mangalore Union, or the Mangalore Club today, where everybody was admitted. But his most remarkable feat was creating, as I told, Canara Hindu Permanent Fund. Those days, banks were very few. There was one Atharnabad Bank which failed. Bini Limited was there, their finance company which was taking deposit, that also failed. People lost money. And he also saw that Kannada people or the GSP community were keeping money with Patan cities for the welfare of their children, and when the children grew older, when they become adult, this money is not available to them, because either the Patan city has become broken, or he is dead, or there is no record, there is no interest. So, although he was suffering from gout, which is a debilitating joint disease, and ultimately he passed away at the age of 56 because of that disease, but he travelled in bullock carts from village to village. He contributed his own money for the purpose of building those institutions. So this was the life story of Subbarao, who was very religious, but he was not a bigot. He started working for the God Saraswat Brahmin community, a narrow platform, But that narrow platform was to bring focus for his activities, which later on bloomed to really all India and world-class platforms. He was ever grateful for the things that he has received for his welfare and always paid it back. He combined literature along with law. He always asked people not to indulge in frivolous litigation, because litigation ruins the financial status of families and groups, and he always discouraged and told them that you settle it between yourself. A rare professional ethics at that time. So this was Subbarao Pai for you. We salute Subbarao Pai. In the next episode, we will talk about another Pai, Dr. T.M.A. Pai. Till that time, goodbye.